Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on Amber Enterprises.
Okay.
You might know them for their air conditioners.
Right.
But there's way more to their story than just keeping things cool.
For sure.
We got some excerpts from their Q2FY25 earnings called Transcript.
Okay.
And it's packed with insights, so
Looking forward to it.
buckle up.
Yeah.
We're about to uncover some fascinating business moves.
It's really interesting to see how Amber is diversifying and taking advantage of these trends.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
First up, their business model.
Okay.
Amber Enterprises has this three-pronged approach.
Yeah, like a diversified portfolio.
Right. So they've got consumer durables.
Right.
They've got electronics manufacturing services, or EMS.
Yeah.
And they have their railway subsystems and defense division.
This is really fascinating because it allows them to have multiple growth avenues.
Yeah.
And that helps them mitigate risks associated with being overly reliant on any single market.
Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So let's zoom in on each of these divisions.
Okay.
Starting with consumer durables.
Okay.
We know them for their ACs, but they're not just sticking to what they know.
No, they're branching out. They're
Yeah.
producing components for refrigerators, washing machines, and even venturing into the automotive sector.
Wow, they're covering a lot of ground.
They are.
And it's not just components, right?
It's not just components.
They're also getting into finished goods production.
Exactly. Their joint venture with Resijet to manufacture washing machines is about to kick off mass production.
Okay, so now this is where it gets really interesting, for me at least.
Okay.
Their Electronics Manufacturing Services Division, or EMS.
Right.
This is absolutely booming.
It is. There's a lot of factors driving that growth.
Yeah.
Like this major industry shift from fixed speed to inverter ACs.
Right.
Which requires a lot more sophisticated electronics.
Right, and we can't forget about their acquisition of ILJIM Electronics.
Right, that broaden their capabilities significantly.
So they're now a full-fledged EMS provider, offering solutions for all kinds of products.
All kinds of products.
Wearables, smart meters, and even defense technology.
Really riding that tech wave.
Okay, this is where I got really excited when I was reading through this earnings call transcript.
Oh, really?
They're making some really bold moves to build for the future.
Okay.
They're not just thinking about today.
Right.
They're anticipating tomorrow's demands.
Absolutely.
So, for example, they're expanding Ascent Circuits, their PCB manufacturing subsidiary.
And printed circuit boards are essentially the brains of electronic devices.
They are.
Yeah.
And they're building a brand new plant in Hosur, Tamil Nadu.
Wow.
This tells me they're really serious about ramping up their production.
It does. And they've also formed a joint venture with Korea Circuit to produce advanced PCBs.
Wow.
For mobile devices, IT, and the semiconductor industry.
Huge market.
Absolutely huge.
Smartphones, laptops,
You name it.
all rely on those advanced PCBs.
This market is projected to reach a staggering INR 80,000 crore.
Which is roughly $10 billion USD.
That's right, by 2030.
Okay, so Amber is really trying to grab a piece of that pie.
They are.
And what I found really interesting was their buyback arrangement with Korea Circuit for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
This ensures that their capacity utilization is happening right from the get-go and minimizes risk.
It's a very strategic partnership that demonstrates their ambition and their careful planning.
Okay, let's move on to the Railway Subsystems and Defense Division.
Okay.
This is another area where they're making steady progress, right?
That's right. They had a slight dip due to project delays.
Okay.
But it's important to note that they have a very robust order book exceeding INR 2,000 crore.
Which is about $250 million USD.
Correct. So long-term potential is still strong.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're not slowing down expansion in this division either.
Not at all. Sidwell's Greenfield project is on track.
Okay.
And their joint venture with Yujin Machinery of South Korea for train components is moving forward smoothly.
Wow.
With trials expected soon.
So they're in it for the long haul. They have this strategy of planting seeds for future growth.
Yeah.
Even if it takes a little while to see those results.
They're thinking ahead.
Right.
Making strategic investments for the future.
How about we switch gears and take a look at their financial health?
Okay.
I'm curious to see how these different operations impact their bottom line.
I think you'll be impressed.
Okay.
Amber reported some pretty impressive growth in Q2 of FY25.
Okay.
Revenue surged by 82% year on year.
Wow.
And their operating EBITDA jumped by 85%.
Wow.
So not only top-line growth,
Right.
but also strong operational efficiency.
Yeah, it seems like their diversification strategy is paying off.
It really does.
And what's encouraging for investors is their focus on improving ROCE,
Absolutely.
return on capital employed.
That's right.
And they're also actively managing their debt levels.
Which is good for long-term sustainability.
Okay, so they've got a solid business model,
Yes.
impressive financial performance,
Uh-huh.
ambitious expansion plans.
It's true.
But we can't ignore risks in competition, right?
We can't. Every business has them.
Every business has them.
Yeah.
So let's unpack those next and see how Amber is addressing these hurdles.
Okay. Sounds good.
This deep dive is already giving me a much clearer picture of Amber Enterprises
It is fascinating.
and their strategic moves.
Yeah. It is a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack.
And we're just getting started. Okay. So we've covered their business model,
Right.
their financials,
Yeah.
and their expansion plans.
Uh-huh.
Now let's talk about some of those industry tailwinds that are pushing them forward.
Yeah, you know, when I was reading through this earnings call transcript,
Okay.
I was really struck by how they seem to be riding these powerful trends.
Yeah.
What are some of those key factors that are driving that growth?
Well, one major factor is the increasing demand for consumer durables in India.
Okay.
You know, India's middle class continues to grow. Like
Sure.
their purchasing power is rising.
Uh-huh.
So naturally, that means a greater demand for appliances.
Yeah.
ACs, refrigerators, washing machines, all of that.
As people's incomes rise,
Yeah.
they want to improve their standard of living.
Exactly.
Appliances play a big part in that.
They do. And Amber is in a really good position to benefit from that.
Yeah.
They are the leading contract manufacturer for a lot of these products.
Okay.
So they're riding that wave of rising consumer spending.
Okay, so it's smart of them to establish themselves as like a key player in this space.
It is.
But it's not just about consumer demand, is it?
No, it's not just about consumer demand.
They're also benefiting from government policies
Yes,
that encourage domestic manufacturing.
you're right. Initiatives like Make in India
Right.
incentivize companies to produce goods within the country,
Right.
reduce their reliance on imports.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing I was curious about was these production-linked incentive schemes, or PLI schemes, that were mentioned in the transcript.
Okay.
Can you explain how those work?
Sure. So PLI schemes essentially provide financial benefits to companies that meet certain manufacturing targets.
Okay.
So it's a way for the government to encourage domestic production and boost specific industries.
Okay.
So in Amber's case, they've secured PLI schemes for several of their product lines,
Okay.
which really helps their profitability,
Right.
makes them more competitive,
Yeah.
strengthens their position in India's manufacturing ecosystem.
It sounds like a win-win.
It is.
The government achieves its policy goals,
Right?
and companies like Amber get this financial boost.
That's right.
It helps them grow.
Exactly.
Okay, so now another major tailwind for Amber
Yeah.
is the rapid growth of the electronics industry.
Absolutely. Especially in areas like mobile devices, IT semiconductors,
Right.
where demand is just skyrocketing.
So this is where their expansion into advanced PCBs comes into play.
Exactly.
They're anticipating that future demand
That's right.
and positioning themselves to be like a key supplier.
Absolutely. Remember that joint venture with Korea Circuit we talked about.
Yes.
That gives them access to amazing technology,
Right.
global customer base.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really positioning themselves to capture a significant share of this market.
So they're kind of laying the groundwork to be a dominant player in the future
They are.
of electronics manufacturing.
Yeah, and they're not just relying on organic growth.
Right.
They're actively looking for strategic partnerships.
Okay.
Really smart approach.
Now let's not forget about their railway subsystems and defense division.
Right.
This segment faced some challenges,
It did.
but there are some long-term tailwinds there as well.
India is investing a lot of money
Okay.
in modernizing their railway infrastructure.
So more trains, better facilities,
Upgraded
all
technology.
creates opportunities for companies like Amber.
It does.
So even though this division may not be growing as fast
Right.
now,
Yes,
it seems like they have a really strong foundation
they do.
for future growth.
And as India focuses on boosting its defense capabilities,
Okay.
there's going to be a growing demand for domestically produced components.
Right.
And Amber, with their expertise, is well positioned to meet that demand.
Okay, so we've talked about these powerful tailwinds
Yes.
pushing Amber forward.
Right.
What is the overall outlook for their future?
Well, the short answer is it's promising.
Okay.
They've got a clear strategy for growth.
Uh-huh.
They're riding these positive trends.
Yeah.
They've shown that they're able to adapt
Right.
and seize opportunities.
Yeah. But it can't all be smooth sailing.
No, of course not.
What are some of the risks that they need to navigate?
Well, one of the risks they face is seasonality in the AC market.
Okay.
Their sales can really fluctuate depending on the weather,
Right.
which can be unpredictable.
Yeah.
So it can be hard to forecast demand
Right.
and manage their inventory effectively.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even with a diversified business model,
Yeah,
they're still exposed to certain market factors
of course.
that are beyond their control.
Absolutely. Another challenge they face is execution risk.
Oh, yeah.
They're expanding rapidly,
Right.
integrating new facilities, ventures, partnerships.
Yeah.
If that's not handled carefully,
Mm-hmm.
could lead to inefficiencies,
Right.
cost overruns,
Okay.
delays.
So it sounds like they're juggling a lot of moving parts.
They are.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget about competition.
Right.
The consumer durables and electronics markets are very competitive,
Very competitive.
both domestically and internationally.
So how does Amber plan to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, that's what we'll talk about next.
Okay.
We'll take a look at the competitive landscape
Okay.
and see how they're positioning themselves.
So we've talked about these tailwinds that are pushing Amber forward,
Right.
and we've talked about the risks that they face.
Mm-hmm.
Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah. What can we take away from this deep dive? I think Amber Enterprises is a fantastic example of an Indian company that's taking advantage of these opportunities
Right.
in this rapidly growing economy and changing global landscape.
Yeah, and they're not just going along for the ride.
No,
They're actively shaping their own destiny.
that's right.
They're being very proactive
And strategic.
about their growth and their expansion.
Yeah, their diversification is a really good lesson in mitigating risk.
It is.
You know that classic saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
They're expanding into multiple product lines,
Right.
multiple industries,
Oh,
so
good.
they're less vulnerable to fluctuations in any one market.
Right, and that makes them a more resilient company,
It does.
especially in today's business environment.
Yes.
One thing that stood out to me was their move towards vertical integration,
Yeah.
bringing more of their supply chain in-house.
Gives them much more control.
Yeah, over costs, quality, speed.
It does.
So by having more control over those production processes,
Yeah.
they can respond more quickly to those market changes
Absolutely.
and ensure that quality is consistent.
And potentially reduce costs.
Oh, right.
Which all contribute to a stronger competitive position.
Okay, and let's not forget their expansion,
Right.
both organically and through those strategic partnerships.
They're not afraid to take some risks.
Right.
And that often separates successful companies.
From the rest.
Yeah.
And it's not just about growth at any cost.
No.
They're also focusing on their financial health.
Which is so important.
Right? It's about expanding intelligently.
Yes.
And this brings me to another point that really impressed me.
Okay.
Their ability to take advantage of those government initiatives,
Uh-huh.
Make in India,
Yes.
and those PLI schemes we talked about.
They've aligned their business strategy with these programs.
Right.
So it's accelerated their growth,
It really has.
giving them a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that businesses need to adapt.
Adapt to the policy landscape. Because those policies can create some amazing opportunities.
They can.
So before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with something to ponder.
Okay.
Amber is making a big bet
They are.
on the future of electronics manufacturing in India.
Yeah.
With their investment in advanced PCB production,
Right.
they want to be a key supplier
Yeah.
for these high-growth sectors,
Yes.
mobile IT semiconductors.
Big question is, will this bet pay off?
It is a big question,
Depends on a lot of factors.
right? Like the continued growth of these sectors,
Right.
Amber's ability to execute these plans,
Absolutely.
and how the competition plays out
all of that.
in that global electronics market.
It's complicated,
Yeah.
but it's important for Amber's future.
Right, and it's not just about Amber.
No.
It's about the entire Indian economy.
Right, their success.
Could have ripple effects.
Or their challenges.
If they succeed in becoming this global leader
Yes.
in electronics manufacturing,
Uh-huh.
it's going to be a huge boost for India.
It will be.
Okay, so there you have it.
That was fun.
That was our deep dive on Amber Enterprises,
An Indian company.
making some big moves
Yes.
in the manufacturing world.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
It will be.
Yeah?
So we hope you found this insightful,
Yes.
and we'll be back soon
we will.
with another deep dive into a fascinating company
Sounds good.
or industry.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep learning,
Keep exploring.
keep exploring,
And keep diving deep.
and keep diving deep.